I thought I would try and oppose the negativity I had with The Timeless Children by talking about an episode I really enjoyed when I first saw it on TV. I appreciate at this moment my opinion on Doctor Who on the internet is just the equivalent of throwing a bottle full of mineral water into the sea, but I talk a lot about Doctor Who at home. Just ask my wife. So I thought I would give you lot a chance to listen to my ramblings. It's the first episode of the rebooted series, or New Who as it's come to be known, and in hindsight it's pretty much just a box ticking exercise. Don't get me wrong, it's a good one that is enjoyable and still stands up today. More so than some episodes that follow it. It is very similar to the original An Unearthly Child that introduced the world to Doctor Who back in 1963, as in the main focus isn't on the Doctor himself, but on the new companions suddenly discovering that the universe is much bigger than them. I don't want to directly compare the two episodes as they were made for two completely different audiences, but it is almost inevitable. But I will say this, when I was at university I did host a couple of screenings to research what people thought of these two episodes in contrast to each other. The group mainly consisted of people who either liked or were familiar with Doctor Who, but had seen virtually none of the classic series and maybe only some episodes of the new series. When doing this research I expected the vast majority to prefer Rose over The Unearthly Child, but both were met favourably, which really surprised me. Anyway, I digress. The main thing that has stood the test of time with this episode is just how good Christopher Eccleston is. It's a shame he only did the one series, and at the time of writing he has never returned to the role for a cameo or even done anything with Big Finish for their audio dramas. I actually reckon that when John Hurt was brought in to play the War Doctor for the 50th anniversary, this was actually intended to be Eccleston's 9th Doctor. But I shall talk about that another time. As you may already be learning through this, I do tend to shoot off on tangents. I'll try not to get lost. Back to the episode. One thing most Who fans can agree on is Eccleston is greatly underappreciated. He could get every aspect of the character right. He could bounce from Charlton-esque silliness to the more serious tones similar to the Colin Baker era or even later Sylvester McCoy. It is a real shame that there are only these 13 episodes for him. This episode is also responsible for introducing us to Billie Piper's Rose. And while she had done some television acting before, this was her first major role. And to be fair to her, she does a pretty good job. The character would obviously get fleshed out as the series would go on, but straight away they were trying to set her out to be more than just a one-dimensional character. For example, they made her an active part, driving the narrative forward, showing her doing her own research, looking for the Doctor, rather than just everything happening around her. One thing I liked about the character is that she isn't miserable. Let me explain. Quite often in modern adventure stories, the main character will come from a miserable life, or at least one presented as such. They will come from an unloving family, or have no family at all to speak of, virtually no future with it having no job or just a crap one. So the adventure kind of starts of a, well, we'll have nothing to do here, so why the hell not? A bit similar to Donna when she is reintroduced in Series 4, but then again the framing for her is different. She had already been on an adventure, albeit against her will. Rose is different. Her life is not perfect, but then again, whose is? She doesn't always get on with her mum, but you can still see that love and affection is there. She has a caring boyfriend in Mickey. And while he isn't presented very well in this episode, boyfriend archetype 3, grafted with a heart of gold, variation 8, can be a bit overprotective. You can see that they are really happy together, and as the series goes on he is fleshed out and actually given some character. The only real negative is her job. She is working in a shop and has possibly no future. Most of the British population can relate to being in a similar situation. When she decides to go with the Doctor at the end of the episode, it isn't so much a, well, I haven't got anything for me here, but more of a, oh my god, what else is out there kind of reaction. This is something I think the rebooted series has got right quite a few times. I'm not saying this sort of thing never happened in the original series, I just mean that for a modern fantasy, that seems to be the jumping off point more often than not. The relationship between the Doctor and Rose is really good fun, and by the end of the episode they seem to have some really good chemistry and they seem so comfortable with each other. Their relationship is innocent and playful, and that innocence is something they will play on the next episode. Plus, I've always loved this exchange.
If you are an alien, how come you sound like you're from the north?
Lots of planets have a north.
I always thought the Autons were a good choice of villain for the first episode. Recognisable enough so the old fans got that nostalgia twang, and relatable enough so new fans could recognise the horror of seeing shop dummies come to life. The CGI for the Nestene Conscious is what really dates this episode, along with the mobile phones. While at the time I remember thinking it looked incredible, like I'm sure most people did, watching it again recently, it just looks a bit fake. Yes, I know, it isn't real. Shut up! This isn't just a problem with Doctor Who though. Look at something like Lord of the Rings, which is still one of the best film series ever created, but some of the CGI moments at the time of release were brilliant. Over the years, they haven't aged particularly well. But that doesn't take away from the quality of the story or the characters involved. It is still enjoyable. Is this episode worth revisiting? Yes, of course it is, and it's a great place for new fans to jump on as well. It does an excellent job of introducing the concept of the show to new viewers, while at the same time creating a mystery that old fans can dive into. In this episode, the mystery is simple for old fans. What has happened between the movie and now? The mystery would obviously deepen as the series went on, but we can talk about that if and when we get there.